Tonight we have one apology from Nicole, who's unwell. So would somebody like to move that, please?
Happy to move.
Jeremy, and seconded by Phil. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Any declarations of interest today? We have a forum. So the minutes, confirmation of minutes.
Move those.
The 11th September. Jeremy, move those. Any discussion? Seconder.
Sorry, we can't see.
Alistair. Thank you, Al. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
It's carried. No extraordinary business, no questions, no reports. Okay, we'll go on to the finance report on 9.1. Tanya, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, councillors. You'll note that the finance report for the first quarter of this LTP is different from the past. It's quite substantially shorter in some ways. The performance reporting that was at the back, the previous tables and graphs, has been replaced by the business plan report with its beautiful graphics and numbers. The other thing that you might have noticed missing is the report on the climate resilience funding projects now that they're complete. And of course the clean air loan, now that they're completed, they're not there as well, so it has substantially reduced the number of pages of our report, but not the importance, I hope. I'm going to just, I'll take it as read, as I have in the past, and just note a few things that we wrote into the page 13 of our summary and introduction. It is the first report, as we note, of the new long-term plan. As with the first quarter reports, there can be some timing or phasing, we call it, differences around the expenditure, where we can sometimes be overly optimistic in that first quarter. Weather conditions can severely affect the delivery, and you might have noticed that, of course. It's not indicative necessarily of a permanent saving by having been underspent at this stage. So once we get to the December results, which you'll have in February, F&P, we'll have a much better idea then of how our spending is going. The clean air loans, just noting that we followed up on those. Both councils have agreed to repay in full their outstanding amounts, and we're quite happy, I think, for that to be concluded. Right, I'll turn to page 14. Just like to note, you might have been alarmed when you read this. It says trade and other receivables of 32.7 million higher than last year. It's to do with the timing, as I said, or I might not yet have said, but explained in the debtors when we get there. So just wanting to ensure that you're not alarmed by that. Page 15 is a new report. It's a summary report that we're including here. This is the format which we produce for each annual report. And we thought it's actually valuable for council to see what the public view of the financials are each quarter as we go through, because we tend to focus on the internal reporting. And sometimes we can get to the end of the year and say, oh, I didn't see that coming, or I didn't see that, how it's going to be represented using all the accounting standards. So the numbers should not be any different from page 15 to page 16. Coffee's all well. Yes.
Yeah. Coffee?
Yeah. Noting, my councillor beside me has pointed out the font size could perhaps be increased on these reports.
Yes, please.
Yes, and
All sitting here with their glasses on.
Apologies, I tend to read this on the screen, and today as I reviewed it on paper, I thought that's perhaps not ideal. So again, hopefully that you're able to read this. So I'll draw your attention to the midline, as we always do, the operating surplus and deficit. For the quarter, shows 1,003,000 against a budget of 96,000. as I said, not indicative of what is actually happening. We've got some below budget expenditure for the first quarter and above budget there and other revenue, which we'll get to. Now, I need to just perhaps say to you that we've got the drafts of the October reports now internally, internal management reports, and the expenditure and the income is much more in line and is coming into line. So some numbers to just draw your attention to: the finance costs, 92,000 for the quarter versus a budget of 221. Coming into this financial year with lower debt than we had forecast, certainly initially lower debt as we caught up and finished the climate resilience projects. But secondly, the facility that we put in place in August, the interest cost saving on that is substantial, and we're going to see that advantage is going to continue through the year. Were there any questions on this statement, Chair?
What is the bearing, the interest rate drop, just out of interest? It's just,
Today?
yeah, you were saying that it has been quite an advantage. What are we seeing in facilities?
We were able to pick up the facility nearly 2% lower. It is very advantageous. It will be a one-off, but it's to our definite advantage.
Just if we can follow up, quick question, just in regards to that. So from a long-term plan perspective, we've set it at that higher rate. Is it like we had to probably set it at what we're getting?
Our facility is for only 1 year. It expires at the end of May.
Yeah.
So it's a definite advantage for this year.
Long-term, looking in the budgets and we would have had higher rates.
Yes, we're still in the high fives.
Yeah, so we might be down a couple of % on any of the debts and things into the future.
Only for this year.
Only for this year.
Yeah, just for this season. Yeah.
We didn't put in the budget that would be lower if we did have debt in the year. Sorry,
So I might be not understanding the
year
question.
2, year 3 of a long-term plan. We're
we
doing
had-
budgets further out.
We had a decreasing.
We did have a
forecast,
decrease.
Yeah, but not to the extent that we're seeing
No,
here.
it's-
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And we'll find out later this afternoon if how close we are on that.
Are you happy to take questions through this, Tania, or
No,
is that okay?
yes, Chair. Yes.
Alistair has one.
Yeah, note 7, basically, those contractors there, are they the ones that do our rivers? In other words, that, we've got diggers and things like that. Is that what that is?
No, councillor, contractors and consultants is an interesting term, isn't it? But it covers really external labour for consultants, obviously for supporting us on expertise, and contractors in the building where we might not have staff or we need additional resource. The contractors that you're thinking of come under the line operation, other expenses.
Oh, the next one down.
Yes.
So we've spent 1.881 million on other staff.
Yes. Yeah. And a full year budget of 9.4.
Million.
Yes.
So that's against a budget of 1.9 million, so we're slightly, we're 100,000 off
60.
under that.
Yeah, at the moment.
That's for the quarter.
So that covers everything from legal to audit, right through the gamut of all consultants and contractors that we would have in the building, or supporting our work programs.
Is that okay, Al?
Yeah.
Would,
Sorry.
are there any further questions on the financial statements, Chair?
So you did introduce Tania saying that some numbers look a bit big, but you're not uncomfortable with anything in particular?
The variances are showing positive, more positive than perhaps the situation's going to be. The one other number that's in there that is very high and makes the bottom line look perhaps quite distorted is the investment income, middle of the page, investment income, other gains and losses, $824,000 for the quarter. That's the movement in the value of the portfolio. It is substantial, and I reported to exec this week that as of today or this week, it's actually now 2 million. So including maybe unpredicted impact of what's going on overseas. But of course, as we know, what goes up can come down. It can move $1 million a month in any direction. So it does make the bottom line quite distorted, and I encourage us to focus again always on the operating surplus. A statement of financial position on page 19.
So, just, we're only partway through, but you did say you were going to do this, the ongoing figures.
What I was suggesting.
Even within budget.
Yeah, what I was suggesting at that point was that those positive variances aren't necessarily going to remain permanent, that we don't have a $1 million saving yet. Page 19 is our balance sheet. Just noting that at the end of September, we were $9.7 million overdrawn, use of the facility. Our CapEx has been $1 million for the year, or the 3 months, so we're sitting at $66 million. The employee entitlements are higher than normal. There was a 3-pay period in that month, so 3.1 million includes holiday pay and outstanding payments to be made at that date.
So all holiday pay is taken into account
Yes.
as it accrues.
Yes, and we've had a number of discussions on holiday pay. It keeps increasing as we increase the value of staff time, the value of their leave increases. As we add staff, the value of the leave increases. It's a liability, and the increase is an expenditure in the accounts each year. If I can, then I'll jump to page 21 as the cash flow. If there are no further questions. Our cash flow graph, the 2 lines, one, the blue line being the original forecast that we gave you prior to the beginning of the financial year, in fact. So forecasting out with the LTP, and the green line being our forecast as we update each month as we go. The improvement there that you see is a timing, I won't call it a timing difference, it's recognising that we're actually going to get, particularly our fees and charges income came in a month earlier, because we're able to invoice out in the beginning of August. We're more positive about the cash flows coming in. We've actually, the rates, we're invoicing rates 6-8 weeks ahead of required to be paid, and people start paying the moment they get invoices. So it has improved the cash flow. The final end of year result is very little different, but the timing is a bit different.
Toby, are those green and blue lines around the right way?
Yes. Yes.
So the updated is the green one.
Yes.
Our income came in earlier.
Yes. Well, we're projecting it into this Friday, of course, is the closing date for payment of rates. While we're not on the debtors subject yet, can share with you that we have increased our direct debit payments by another 1,000 ratepayers. So another 1,000 ratepayers will be paying on Friday through the direct debit. We've increased our email invoicing by another 1,000. So just, there's more to do there, but this is a big improvement over the past. So we're going to see a substantial influx of funds one way or the other on in the next 3 days.
Assuming they can pay.
Yeah, well, we hope they've already contacted us that are on the 3 payment plan. So the facility that we spoke of expires at the end of May, and in June we'll be replacing that with a longer term facility, a facility that will match the length of the assets that we've borrowed the money for. Assuming we're not going to find another good deal on a facilities. Are there any questions on the cash flow, Chair?
Jeremy?
So just to clarify that June 25, the 16 million you got there. So is that being built up, or is it just we've gathered it all? I'm just trying to find where's that 16 million?
16
Technically.
million is a combination of the total debts that so we started the year, we were to start the year with a net 10, which was it 15 and 5, 15 gross, 5 in the bank. This is a reflection of that because we've been using the cash flow of the organisation through the year. You'll find in the when we get to the last paper in the PAC Council that we can look at the total debt and what part of that is played by the Kanoa projects. Does that answer your question? Or?
Oh, it was just I was trying to follow the trail, trying to see where's this just so we're using an overdraft at the moment.
Yes.
We haven't got any other facility.
No.
So this is just reflecting income. We're going to
repay the overdraft.
Repay the overdraft being 16 million drawdown from the other facility. So
And
our
then
balance would be.
we have some options there too. We could be looking at the use of our reserves, depending on the season for the marine feed, depending on the income in the portfolio. We have projected that we could, if we choose, take down the interest income from the portfolio. So we have some options at the end there. Maybe 16 million might be less.
Okay.
Page 23 is our debtors and rates report. We have tried to cut out a lot of the words from this report and replace it with another table on the basis that it might more easily convey what's going on with our debtors. So at the end of September, we had $1 million in total debtors, total sundry debtors, 668,000 in the 30-day section, and 304 in the 90 days. So not, you might think at first glance, not an improvement over the year before. In fact, it's reflecting that we received the cash. Whereas if you look at September 23, we had 3.5 million outstanding. It's because we'd only just invoiced the cash. And at this time, we'd received a lot of it, but you can see there's a tail there that comes through from these outstanding annual charges.
Is there any way of bringing in urban rural commission?
Yes, we could do
I
some more
don't know whether
analysis.
it would just help me work out economically the region where
For debtors or for rates? For debtors, yeah. We can look at some more analysis. So we've noted, sorry.
The question is, are you concerned about that?
Well, I'm frustrated by that. I'm not concerned about the 30 days. I think we can move that forward. There's more in the 304,000 that we do not want that to increase. And of course, we're trying to actively decrease it. So I was just going to talk about the table there that shows the breakdown of what we're doing with that 304,000. 93,000 of it is actively managed by DMC, and 211,000 has been managed by us. And I'd like to suggest that we can do more by trying to prevent it getting into that category. So our one of the benefits of going away on some of these workshops that we occasionally get to is that I was able to catch up with colleagues from other councils on rates of debtors and options on how to encourage people to pay. It would seem that all councils are doing okay with rates because we have statutory tools, but all councils are being challenged by sundry debt. There's e-texting now as an option, for example, where we can remind debtors in this case that they're overdue, or potentially offering the opportunity to add an interest or penalty, and that if they paid, reminding them that if they've paid that they won't incur that. So there's positive and negative tools that we could be looking at to try and keep that moving so we don't get into this position.
But we currently don't charge people.
We're not charging interest yet, but it is actually an option in our fees and charges schedule, and that's one I've asked Tracy to investigate is how easy is it to add an interest cost, and we'll bring these things back to you as an option.
It always amazes me that we're the only council that doesn't pay 1 day late 10%. let's say. And then every other council seems to water rates everything.
So we can talk about rates in a minute. For the debtors, have I answered all the questions about the debtors? Thank you. In future, the table that you're looking at, table 20, page 23, mid-page, we'll have a comparative from quarter to quarter now that we're doing it this way, and it'll probably provide more insight as to how we're progressing. Page 24, rates debtors. We have always, I suppose, just because sometimes you always do things, reported rates debt as the net debt in the ledger. And some years ago, the amount that was overpaid was quite insignificant. The amount that's now overpaid is growing, and at post the last meeting, we've decided to present to you the gross amount outstanding and the net. So they're normally different people, of course. So how people get into credit is they simply are on like a weekly, monthly payment system, and they like to stay in credit so that they're not being charged penalties. That's how they're managing their facility. So across the 3 years, our net debt has come down from 1.2, just a bit above 909, a bit above last year. 3% still of the total rates previously invoiced. So we've got gross rates there of 1.1 million, overpayments of 200,000. At the 30th of September, DMC are managing 2.6 minus 1.1, 1.5, 1,500 ratepayers, and 808 of those will soon be settled if they're not already, which is in the mortgage process. So each of the banks will settle individually with us, some early November and some later, depending on their process. So that is also part of the statutory process. We can't undertake that process at the beginning of July, then they have 3 months, and then they have another period, and etc. And our debt officer, Shirley, is very, very good at making sure that we are in there doing the best we can. The ratepayer will be advised by the bank that they've received a letter. The money doesn't just simply come out of their account. They are advised by the bank that they have an obligation to the council, and the bank will pay us only if the ratepayer chooses not to honour the debt. So that's the process there. Further on, you'll see on page 25, we're noting any rating sale processes that we're involved with. 7 processes undertaken, 3 have payment arrangements. So again, it's nearly an 18-month process from beginning to end. At any point, if they decide that they can enter in a payment arrangement, the process stops. 2 of those we are working with SDC, 1 with GDC, and 1 we've initiated on our own. And lastly, on the middle of the page, Clean Air loans. Council has invoiced the City Council, and Gore District has agreed to the completion, and they will be invoiced shortly. So any questions?
Sorry.
Now, Jeremy, then now.
Okay, just quickly, I see just in debt management, DMC, 808 rating units are actually in mortgagee processes. I see it's under the last 426, but they're obviously got other $426 each. I'm just doing an average on the value, but they're obviously is that normal? That's obviously the stress, some stress systems I take it there.
When I first came here, we were doing 500, so it has increased.
That are in mortgagee processes.
So that's a claim against the bank.
Yeah.
So what one of our tools is if unpaid, we can then ask the bank 1 year, well, 1st of July, after the payment was due in November. When we reach the 1st of July, we can ask the bank to honour the payment if they have a mortgage. So that would mean is that they have not responded to previous correspondence, and now we're asking their bank to make that payment on their behalf.
So that is those rating units are under mortgagee,
No, not
not from
under
the bank.
mortgage sale,
I'm
no,
just
it
looking from
means-
a bank. That's just what it looks
Just-
to me that they're under.
It
mortgagee
means
sales.
they have a mortgage. That's all it means. They have a
Right.
mortgage, yeah.
Okay.
The total, while the numbers are higher than the past, the total dollars aren't a lot higher. So I think you might say there's more smaller units there.
So it's our mortgagee we're dealing.
Oh, it is our-
They have a mortgage.
It's our debt only that we can ask for.
Yeah.
So we're only asking for our debt, but we're asking the bank to honour it.
Right.
And every mortgage has that clause that says the bank is liable to pay a council for debt rates outstanding on a property. And they do that, of course, to prevent the property being sold.
Okay, Alistair?
Yeah, during your L2P, Wilma spent a lot of time and came out with figures for each department. Does that show up at some stage halfway?
And the next report, councillor, yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
okay.
Business report, yeah. Tony, I had a question on page 18 about the investment income. And I wonder why the realised gains were less than what we had expected, whereas the unrealised gains were a lot more. Is that the right interpretation, first of all?
Yes, no, that's correct, Chair. So the unrealised gains is something that, again, is a reflection of the market value and the substantial, I wouldn't call it a bull run, but it's been a bull market for a long time, but substantial increase in the market. In anticipation, I don't know why, but in anticipation of the election in the United States. The interest and dividends earned is somewhat lower than forecast. Again, this could be our timing, but higher, in fact, than last year by quite a bit. So not concerned about that yet. And I think that will even out.
So those are bonds and.
That's the
fixed
bonds and the
interest.
dividends within the portfolio.
Yeah. So it would tend to be lower if the shares are higher anyway, is that right?
It reflects decreasing interest rates.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much. Anything else in that report? Okay, I'll go back to the recommendation, which is so the recommendation is just to receive the report, so we'd like to move that. Bill, and seconded by Paul. All those in favour, please say aye. Right, now we go to item 9.2, the business plan update, and welcome, John.
Thank you, Chair.
Perhaps before I go on, I know, Wilma, you said earlier that you had to get away. Is there something in the agenda that you particularly want to be here for, so that we can?
I'm good for another hour.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still good. I'll leave it past you.
All right, well, let us know if you're getting a bit anxious. If there is, so is there something here that you really want to?
The papers at the front end are fine, and so we're working through these. I'm okay. I think that beyond the RSHL item, I don't think you actually need to hear from me.
About the public excluded. Public excluded, did you want to be here for that? That was about the expenditure of major items.
Public exclusion one.
Yeah.
Actually, okay, yeah, I might need to be here, right, need to do that in that case before I do.
Yeah, okay, well, I'll keep that in mind. Okay, thank you, Don.
Thank you, Chair. Before I go into the report itself, I'd just like to do a quick recap of the rationale underpinning why we moved into this new business planning framework and reporting, given the last time we covered this with council was during an LTP workshop last year, so a lot has happened since then. There are essentially 4 challenges that we were looking to address with this new business planning framework. We had a lack of shared understanding of the work we're doing across the organisation. We had a lack of shared understanding of the effort and cost of that work across the organisation. We didn't really have consistent reporting, and we had a lack of a single source of the truth. And I used the word shared quite deliberately because across the organisation we had really good understanding of parts of all of those points, except we just at times struggled to bring this together in a consistent way. So this new report, both in terms of format and content, which has more of an internal focus, represents one of the ways this business plan framework we're talking about today. We're trying to just address these challenges that I've just mentioned. There were some things in this report that you probably weren't aware of, and there may be some things in this report that you absolutely have covered sort of multiple times. But again, that's also quite intentional because the purpose of this quarterly report is to bring together all the achievements of the organisation across the quarter into a single place, so then we can start to develop that shared understanding across both council and the wider organisation. Additionally, you will also notice that the organisation's work programs have been grouped into 7 key focus areas. Previously, these have sort of loosely been referred to as imperatives. These are summarised on the top of the first page of the report and then subsequently through individually throughout the rest of the report. The concept of these focus areas was developed as part of strategic planning early last year and was further refined as we worked through the 24-25 business planning process. The key focus areas and work programs may change slightly year on year, but they largely represent what we do as an organisation. But how we do it is represented through the initiatives, which will change year on year, and they also will change intra-year. So what this means is part of our regular business planning performance reviews, we'll be making decisions to start, stop, pause, defer, continue work which will impact the number of initiatives we do at any one time. Finally, there is a lot going on with 55 work programs across 7 key focus areas supported by 308 initiatives. Now, not all the initiatives and work programs are equal in terms of demand and effort, but what they do have in common is that all of them require a degree of planning and disclosure in order to support the business planning framework. And as our ability to plan at this greater level of detail develops, so will our ability to provide greater insights through our reporting to council and wider organisation. So this being our first report, is we considered our baseline report, I suppose, under the new framework, and you can expect to see this evolve over the coming quarters as the richness starts to come through this greater level of detail we're capturing. Now, normally I would summarise the highlights of the report for you, but I think it does a pretty good job of that on the first page. And so, okay, I'm happy to take the report as read and take any questions or queries.
Thanks, Tom. Right, Al?
I like your approach. It's pretty good.
Thank you.
The only thing I would tell like a wee bit on the bottom here where you've got your totals.
Yep.
Just to put a percentage.
Okay.
So in other words, it's running at the moment about 24, some are 18, some are, it just shows us where it is very quickly for us.
Where's
We
that, Al?
can't operate a calculator.
Where is that, Al?
Right at the bottom, if you go to the total of any of those work programs.
So the year-to-date spend $2 million is about 18%.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you want a percentage there as well, is that what
Yeah,
you're
it just gives you an idea, like at the moment, it should sit somewhere about 25%. The next one we see, these should be about 50.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it won't be exactly because some things happen earlier.
Yeah, I know, but
All right, thanks, Phil.
Yeah, really good report, like the approach. And I appreciate that it is the first cap off the rank, first time using this format, and it's an opportunity to learn as we go. One of the things I was wondering about is in future iterations that it establishes a baseline. Will there be an opportunity to add or integrate into this comments or observations around where risk may be emerging for particular work programs or initiatives?
Yeah, 100%. So there are some enhancements to the report we're already working on, and the risk issues and challenges is one of them. And we're also, just to mention it, I know we'll make Tanya's blood pressure rise, but we've done a lot of tinkering in the financial system to try and enable a greater level of disclosure as well. So there's still some work we're doing in the backgrounds there, but there are a couple of areas we'll be looking to enhance as we move forward.
And I guess the follow-on question was, does the system allow you to drill down on a particular initiative? Can you in your system click on it and poof, gives you much more information on it if people have a giving a thumbs up also from behind you from Tony. So cool, thank you.
Yeah, again with a huge amount of effort from finance to make that possible.
Awesome.
Paul?
Thank you, very good report. Quite like it. Quite the idea that we've got key activities and highlights. Possibly, as we went through, projected upcoming issues would be another thing. And the totals, as Alistair's pointed out, having the percentages is really good. But my old brain sort of loves having last year's spend there as well, so this year's budget. So you can always see what we spent in that area last year. But I know the format is really good because it simplifies it, makes it visible and really accessible. Yeah, just a couple of key things.
Yeah. Noted, thank you for the feedback.
No, awesome, well done.
So is that something that you can do, Don?
No,
If you don't want to do it.
Oh no, we can bring comparators and we can't do it going backwards, but certainly as the report starts to grow and we go into the next financial year, that will start to come through at that point.
Okay. Al?
Dom, I must apologise, and you can tell me to open my eyes. But if you go to the top left-hand corner of this report here, it shows you that you've got the percentage spend for the year, which is the figure I was looking for.
Oh no, sorry, that's a
Percentage
percentage of our total budget. So that just gives you an idea of
Of
the
how much
full
money
year
is
budget.
to each work. Okay.
Yeah, so managed flood risk, for example, has got 25% of our total budget.
Okay,
dedicated
it's
to
total
that
budget.
area, yep.
Yeah, so my
Your point's still valid, yep.
Thank you.
Jeremy, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that just from a numbers game. So if I had a question about a certain IT program or something, if we clicked on the 3.5 million there, you'd be able to see how that number's made up of, like on the spreadsheets and things like that. Just to get that formula.
Well, nothing's ever that easy, but yes.
Looking ahead to say, okay, well, where's the extra? We're always asking, where's the money actually going from increasing budgets?
So
It's a lot easier to deal with.
the organisation is managing it to that level.
Double click on the door, the box comes up.
Yes.
Somewhere.
I see the council's got Scott at the moment. We're
Good
not-
time.
On the program that's called Understand What Matters, can you explain what that is?
So if you flick over to the, sorry, I don't have page numbers on that. It's
Page 35 of the pack.
page 35 of the pack. That each of these individual pages under the key focus areas represent the major work programs and activities that sit under that area.
It's good.
Everybody understand that? I'm the only one who doesn't understand that.
No,
So,
No, I'm just
so
trying-
for example, regional spatial strategy,
Mm.
and I understand that there may be a question mark whether that's actually
Oh, yeah.
progressing, for example.
Yeah.
I guess if something doesn't progress, or if you hit pause on a piece of work, it just sits there and remains kind of latent in the plan until at a future point we decide whether or not to.
Most of the work programs have multiple initiatives that sit under them, and so it'll be normally an initiative that would get paused. With our regional spatial strategy, it's just the one item sitting under that. So yeah, if we reported that whole work program.
I know $0 spent.
Right, no, that's good. Lyndall?
Yeah, the only comment about that would be that if it was a dangerous pause, it would come up in the risk conversation that you asked about it.
Right, anything else on Don's report?
I move that we accept the report. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Wonderful, mate.
Aye.
Thanks, Don.
Right, item 9.3, we have Jane here to tell us about this.
Afternoon,
Jane.
everybody.
Yeah, Jane.
Pleasure to be here yet again to present my report. On the back of the business plan, you'll see that my report aligns to what's happening in the business plan. So we've been reporting for the last year the initiatives and the milestones. So this report is what goes up into that business plan report. So we've been working obviously on this for the last year. We're in year 2 of our strategy, and we have made some good start to this financial year. We've obviously been working with the finance team and during the rating season and getting the annual plan and the annual charges and everything out. We've made contributions to the RS Next Gen program, so we're participating in everything that we can on that. There is a delay in the build on the RS Next Gen program, which I think I reported last meeting. That delay has meant that we probably won't go live until March 2028 at this stage. So it does feel like a lifetime away. And some of the team are attending the demo day for that right now. And so, yeah, it's a long way to go before we get this new software. So, but we are participating in all places that we should. Legacy systems, there's some complexity in some of the last of the legacy systems that we're trying to shut down. So we segregated them off the network so that, you know, there's no risk to the network from a cybersecurity point of view. And we are just slowly unpacking the puzzle or the tangle. And we anticipate to have the last 15 servers out of the system by 2025. There may be 1 or 2 that hang around just because it is so legacy and so device rollout, that's going really well. Over half the organisation has got Windows 11 and Office 365. Councillors are sort of last on the list, and we will take you gently through that process of change. BI reporting, obviously with the business plan that we are working through executive dashboards to try and get some more better data insights. So yeah, some of that, you know, how do we get those pop-up screens that like you're talking about that we can drill down and see that information. So that's, I hate the word, but that's a bit of a journey, but we are working through that. And obviously the environmental data portal went live. There was a small oversight in being able to compare previous year's data. So we have stood up the old environmental data site until we actually resolve that issue. So if you've heard any complaints through catchment committees or anything, we have resolved that one. We had a really, really successful cybersecurity month in October. So we basically every second day we did something. Hopefully you are receiving training on a Wednesday morning and you're participating in that training. And I know that some are because I saw it happening, and that you're enjoying some of that training. I think today's one was quite a good one, you know, tagging in, you know, somebody in a photo on social media, next thing, you know, something goes viral. As if we do that sort of thing. Business continuity and the pitching program is also progressing well. We're yet to do a full business continuity test, but it is on the radar for sure. Email security, lots of emails continue to flow into the organisation. There's been some tricky ones. There's some smart people out there that still, want to either be imposters, or the phishing ones are very, very good these days. So, it's a challenge. And the education piece hopefully is, making that better and easier. That's sort of my highlights. So any questions?
Carol, Phil, Paul, sorry.
I'm a bit different to development work on the health and safety. There's a health and safety dashboard online, so any issues that the staff can go straight in.
At this
Fill
stage,
in a report, and it comes up straight away that
the initial health and safety dashboard is to help Paul out with his reporting.
okay.
So it's focused on that, but yeah, the intention is to release that to at least manager level.
Are we still on paperwork at the moment, or are we integrating into
Integration.
halfway?
Yes. So we have online forms, and there's another project that's pending that will help that process as well.
Okay.
Into a more online.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's just the health and safety downtime. There's a liability for the organisation to usually they can see the fluctuations. I know that online dashboards are good for that. Thank you.
Do any others, Phil?
Just comment on the environmental data website. That must be a real positive to get that up and live. And who are the users will be paying most attention to that? Now, is there a time of year where there is more interest in that?
So obviously flooding time is raining time is where a lot of that. Some of the feedback that we've had, particularly about comparing those years, they were surprising that there was a lot of feedback on that. So it was really good to see that people are actually using that data and comparing, history and that. So Robert's got some great ideas on how he's going to make that a whole lot nicer to be able to view, and quicker to be able to view as well. Yeah, I think the new dashboard is definitely fresher.
Yeah, looks good.
Yes, I agree. It's very good. So did you say that the historical data is, I sent Chris an email about the historical river flow data, and only goes back for 12 months?
So that's what we're resolving at the moment. So I'll send you a link to the old site so that you can gather that information. Yeah, but Robert is working on that right now.
So you want the old money to go back to the other side? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody at one of the catchment groups mentioned that.
Yes, and so anybody who's been in touch, we've just sent them the link, and it will be, fingers crossed, resolved by Christmas.
Thank you. No, it's very impressive. It's very nice. I think anglers are probably one of the greatest users of
Yes.
it.
Yeah, and I certainly, we're trying to push for the people that use the dial-up IVR. We're trying to encourage them because it's richer data.
Anybody else?
I was just saying on the old device leased, I see that you've got 75% devices less than 3-year-old. Remaining 15% replaced, that adds up to 90. I take the other 10% are us councillors who will never get devices updated. Is there a number? Have we got the?
No, they could be that.
Is it 85% of the devices? I think it's
possibly a typo in there. Sorry.
no. It's just, I
Good
thought we might not have been.
I like you.
We might be in the bottom 10%.
I like your explanation of the deal.
It doesn't matter.
You care. You matter a lot. I think that's a typo on my behalf.
I
Sorry.
see it. So it must be 80.
All of our devices are less.
Okay, thanks very much. Al, are you okay? Got anything for? No? Okay, somebody like to move then that
I'm
we
happy to move that.
receive the chair.
I'll second that.
Moved by Jeremy, seconded by Paul. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item 9.4 is information management update. Bruce.
No, unfortunately for you guys, sorry about that. So I'm standing in for Paula. I'm not sure what level of detail she went into on these, so you're aware of the background, what we do and why we do it. we're here really to improve the information capability of the organisation. I'll go through our work programs. They're all green at the moment, which is good. So we have completed our internal audits. So our information stewards have identified the areas of information that we may not be aware of and put them on a catalogue for us to work through. So in the future, we know where stuff is and can deal with it. That's going well. We have also had our information management policy signed off by exec, which is a key part for us. That means that we can make sure the work we need to do gets done when it needs to get done. We have undertaken an information management or procedures review. What we're doing next week is an information awareness week. So we've got a series of programs. We have a muffin talk on just to talk about what we do and why we do it and why it's important that information management is done well. And we've got a series of drop-in sessions throughout the week to make sure people have an opportunity to come and talk to us about anything that they're stuck with. So we've gone out and said, what are you having issues with, taking that on board and set up some programs for that to happen. So that should go well. We've also started our digital preservation project. So the guts of digital preservation is that there is information that may expire in that the formats may no longer be supported by either hardware or software in the future. These are pieces of information that may sit on network drives, CDs, DVDs, or whatever. So we have a project at the moment to scope how big that is and how we're going to address it. So we're aiming to get that underway. Well, it's already underway, but we're working to have that completed, or the scoping for it in December, end of this year. We're using a tool that the UK Archives created called Droid, which helps us identify what's out there and what needs to be taken care of. We're doing a lot with reporting at the moment, because keeping track, especially on things like the GOIMAs, we've got statutory timeframes to hit. So we've done a lot of work on providing sort of a graphic portal for seeing where things are at and tracking them. And we're developing that and improving that on sort of an almost daily basis at times, sometimes a weekly basis, but that is improving our time to respond, which is cool. I don't know if you've got any questions or you want any detail on anything.
Sure, thank you very much, Bruce. Are there any questions on that? Anybody? No, I was a bit worried about Droid. I suppose that's safe, is it?
Yeah, well, UK Archives developed it, New Zealand Archives use it as well. It's open source and free, so we know what it's doing. I've had a deep look into it. It's okay.
It is the Droid we're looking for.
You couldn't resist.
You asked.
All right, thank you very much, Bruce. Would someone like to move and receive this report? Bill, seconded by Al. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Gary? Thanks very much. Right. Well, Bethia suggested, Wilma, that we go to the public excluded part of the meeting now. The other items are in relation to reports from various organisations. So that will give you time to. Is everybody happy that we do that? Just switch things around a bit.
Yep.
Okay. So. So the public excluded part of the meeting. Now, I have talked to Bethia about this before. All right.
Yes. Yes, I will explain the reasons.
So we've had a look at the content of it. I did ask Bethia whether or not this really needed to be in public excluded, and I'd like an explanation as to why. It appears to me that no individuals are mentioned. There are amounts of money there, but no individuals are mentioned. So could we have an explanation? I know that we go into for the reason, but a bit more detail about the reason why it needs to be included.
Yeah. Just checking if we're in public, we're not in public.
Are we in
exclusion.
public exclusion?
Not yet.
We're not yet, no, because I'm asking whether or not we should be in public.
So the material, the information that is in this report ultimately should be released publicly, but at this point relates to aspects of decisions made by previous councils in relation to the nature of the funding and its contingency. And so we need to go into public excluded to discuss this, at which point we can then come out of public excluded and make decisions about what to do with the information.
All right, thank you. Thanks for that explanation. Would somebody like to move for the reasons given there?
I can move.
Do we need to read them out? I don't know if we do really. The reasons are written in the,
Need to read them out.
you have to read them out? Right, thank you. Okay.
So, to go into public excluded, we're going to discuss the confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting on 11th of September, and then climate resilience summary report, and the reasons will be to carry on without prejudice or disadvantage negotiations, including commercial and industrial negotiations. And for the climate resilience, reason would be to protect information which is subject to an obligation of confidence, where the making available of the information would be likely to prejudice to supply of similar information or the information from same source, where it is in the public's interest that such information should continue to be supplied, or would likely otherwise damage the public interest.
Thank you. Would somebody like to move then that we do go into public excluded? Paul, and a seconder, Phil. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. That's carried. Right, thank you. So Tanya and Wilma. Everything's turned off, are we?